We've got Chris Denari on Thursday. It's just like Christmas all the time here. Welcome aboard, brother. How you doing? Oh, I got you muted. My fault. There you go.
All right. Yes, everything's good. The FedEx man just showed up in the driveway, so I had 3 barking dogs. So they've all joined me in the office now. So Augie, Izzy, and Odie are all here. I'm trying to keep them quiet. But, yeah, next week, you're right, from an IU perspective, you think about IU Nebraska, it's probably going to be, what do you think, this could be the biggest game that IU football's had in a long, long time. So that's going to be exciting. But to your point, basketball's underway. Pacers played a preseason game on Tuesday, 131-130. They lost to Atlanta in a game they led by as many as 17. Starters played just a half. I thought were pretty effective. They got out to a 22-5 lead. Pascal Siakam was really good. So too was Andrew Nembhard. Halliburton hit a couple of threes. So, the early preseason games are really about giving guys an opportunity, especially second-team guys and guys that are trying to make the roster. But it was an entertaining game. Zachary Rizache, the number 1 pick from France, was very impressive for Atlanta. He had 18 points.
That sounds like a cologne.
Yeah, it does. But, yeah, it was, good to get one under the belt. Quinn and I did do the game, though. It was not shown in the Indianapolis area. It's just up on DirecTV for those that have League Pass, and we are doing that again tonight for the Cleveland game. But a lot of people watched Jim on Tuesday because the game was on NBA TV. It was all throughout the country on NBA TV, so that was good. We will have our 2 preseason games next Monday and Thursday at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Both are 7 o'clock start. Zach Edey and the Memphis Grizzlies are in on Monday, and then the Charlotte Hornets on Thursday with LaMelo Ball. And we'll have both of those telecasts on Bally Sports.
That's some big names coming in. And then, of course, later on, we'll look forward to the Heat coming in. Kel'el Ware, I mentioned him a minute ago. Wow, what a great first. I know these are preseason games, but these are still real NBA games. This is not the summer league where you have a roster of guys who are just trying to make the team and whatnot. 13 points and 4 blocks, 3 blocks in 1 possession for Ware, but it really showed his athletic ability, his length, his adaptability to the league, and he's ready to go right now for Pat Riley, babe.
Yeah, I think he's going to be somebody to watch because he's going to back up Bam Adebayo, who's a very athletic big, and Adebayo's a guy that when he was at Kentucky, he was not a perimeter shooter, but as we've seen in basketball, the NBA in particular, those 5s are important to sort of spread the floor, space the floor. If you can block shots, you can rebound, you can do all the things that a traditional big man does. But if you can add that 3-point shot, it makes you even more effective. I mean, that's what Miles Turner has done in his 10 seasons with the Pacers. So, yeah, that was a really good start for Ware. I think this is going to be a fascinating season, Jim, from the standpoint. I think there's a lot of parity. You and I have talked, and you've had 6 different winners in the NBA the last 6 years. You've had 14 different teams go to conference finals. The Pacers, one of those last year in the East. So roughly half of your league has been in a conference final over the last 6 years. And in the last 6 years, you've had 9 different teams in NBA finals. I think that's great for the league. And what we saw, for instance, in the preseason game on Tuesday, Atlanta was not a playoff team last year, but Jalen Johnson out of Duke is playing really well. They've got Trae Young. They got Rizache. There are just so many talented players, even with teams that, don't have particularly good records. I mean, when the Pacers open up 2 weeks from last night in Detroit, think about it. I mean, Detroit has Cade Cunningham, who's a really good point guard. They've got Jay Nivey. They've got a lot of talented young players, but they just haven't been able to string a lot of wins together. So that's what I think makes the NBA so fascinating, is that even these teams that don't have great records, if you're not ready on that particular night, you're going to get beat.
Yeah, and the usual suspects, though, looking good early, only 2 games in, but the Knicks and the Celtics both already 2-0. The Jazz 2-0. Golden State. Is there a resurgence with the Warriors? We'll see. 2-0. The Suns 2-0. But again, preseason doesn't mean a ton. It's kind of like the NFL, but not quite. I mean, you probably get a little bit more of a realistic look in the NBA than you do in the NFL. But like you mentioned, the Pacers resting their starters in the second half. So the fact that they were within a point of winning that game, that's got to be a very good sign.
Well, what was crazy about the game is the Pacers had a 3-point lead with less than 10 seconds to play, and Rick Carlisle opted to foul. And we go back and forth on that, whether you watch college basketball, the NBA, high school. Do you foul because you don't want to see a team get a 3-point shot up? Well, it did not work out for the Pacers. They went down to the other end, Atlanta. David Roddy made the first free throw. He tried to make the second one, Jim, but he missed it, and the ball got volleyballed out to a guy, and he threw it to Seth Lundy, who played at Penn State, and the former Nittany Lion launched a shot with 0.3 seconds from 3-point range, and it went in. So ultimately, the Hawks
it worked, but it didn't work.
It didn't work, right? Because you didn't get the rebound, and so ultimately, if you would have just played the possession out and they hit a 3, you go to overtime. Sort of the last thing you want in preseason, right? To play an overtime game, but it didn't pay off for the Pacers because they gave up a 4-point play. They gave up the free throw and the 3-point shot. And then Indiana, all they could do in the final 0.3 after they advanced the ball was lob it up to the rim and try to get a tip in, and they couldn't. So it was an exciting, I'll give you this. It was a pretty exciting and pretty well-played preseason game for number one. Probably too many turnovers. I think the Pacers had like 21 turnovers and Atlanta had 18 or 19. But that's to be expected when you get out there after about a week of training camp.
Yeah, and with it being a close game, one that came down to the wire, the guys on the floor at that time had to go through that's a mental training game, which while they won't be the guys on the floor during a time like that during the season, like most likely, to be able to have them in there though and get that experience, that's got to be pretty valuable just to be able to play in that type of a scenario.
Yeah, I think, most of the guys on the floor at that time, they were two-way guys, and you're probably going to see in the G League, Tristan Newton, who won 2 national championships at UConn, was out there. Quentin Jackson played at Texas A&M. Enrique Freeman at Akron. Kendall Brown, who was on the roster last year, was out there. And then Cole Swider, who played at Villanova and Syracuse, has played with the Lakers and Miami. He's trying to earn the 15th spot on the roster. So to your point, close game, whatever the game was, it's important to those guys because for Cole Swider, he's hoping to make this Pacers roster. I think he did a pretty good job on Tuesday night. He's a very good perimeter shooter. He had 10 points off the bench, hit a couple of threes. So all of these minutes are valuable. I mean, Rick Carlisle and his staff will tell you that even though the starters only played about 15 minutes, the other 33 minutes were very valuable for all those guys on the floor.
Absolutely. And looking forward to the next game out against Cleveland. What are you looking for there?
Well, Cleveland, they were just ahead of the Pacers last year in the East. They were the 4 seed. They won their first-round playoff series against Orlando, but they have a new coach. I mean, I think not advancing as far as Indiana did, it cost JB Bickerstaff his job. JB is now the head coach of the Detroit Pistons, so the Pacers will see Bickerstaff and the Pistons on opening night. Kenny Atkinson is the new head coach of the Cavaliers, a longtime assistant in this league. He was the Brooklyn Nets coach. Most recently, he was on the staff with Steve Kerr at Golden State. They have, I would say, the majority of their team back. Like Indiana, they've not made a lot of changes. They're led by Donovan Mitchell. They have Darius Garland, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. Very, very talented team. Like Indiana, expected, to be a playoff team. But I'll tell you, Jim, when you look at the East, if you're not 1 through 6, you're not guaranteed a spot in the playoffs, right? If you're 7 through 10, you're in the play-in. And that was what Indiana was able to escape last year, not having to be in those single elimination play-in games to get to the playoffs. But these are two teams that will see each other 4 times in the regular season. This is what's interesting, Jim. These are Central Division rivals. Indiana and Cleveland won't play again until after the first of the year. They play back-to-back games in January, and then they don't play until the final week of the regular season twice. So it's just very interesting how we'll see Cleveland tonight, and then we won't see them for about 3 or 4 months.
I don't know if that's a bad thing. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Yes, and let's see. One last thing I forget what I was gonna say, but yep, looking forward to it. It's here, and this is the season that lasts. This is the longest season in professional sports, I'm assuming, right? I mean, doesn't this thing go until like 2 years from now? I'm just kidding. It's like a Guns N' Roses tour.
Yeah, I mean, all of these sports now, really are 12 months. I mean, if you think about the NBA, the only month that is pretty much inactive is August, because from in September, guys are coming in for unofficial workouts. Training camp starts usually the 1st of October. The NBA finals end in mid-June. The draft is in late June. Summer league is in July. So, you look at the NFL with the combine, everything. I mean, college sports now with the portal, you've got to be focused 12 months a year, and clearly the NBA is that.
Chris Denari, the voice of the Pacers. Always good and fun to see you, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your week, and check out some college football this weekend. The Hoosiers are off, but there's plenty of other good games to enjoy. But as you prepare for the Pacers season. Appreciate you, my friend.
All right. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.